Hello YouTube and welcome back to another 3D Rust tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create a hologram like I have here. So before we get started I just want to say thank you for 100 subscribers. It really means a lot and I never thought I'd get that many. I know all the YouTubers say that, but really thanks for the support guys, and I hope these tutorials are helping you out. So anyway, let's jump straight into this tutorial. So as you can see, I've used this effect on the table, on the leg, and on this screen up here. So it can look fairly intimidating, this graph, but I assure you it's pretty easy once you understand how to do it and how it works. So if I just create a new material, I'll load a different map up. So if I just go to the basic map and we'll create a cube, and I'm just going to create a new material. I'm just going to call it tutorial. Okay, so we'll have it here. So first off we have to create the parameters to control for the glow. So if I hold down 1 and left click, I get an integer. So, and if I hold down 1 again, we'll get another one. So I'm just going to hold down A and left click and we'll get an add. You can right click and type it in here or over here. And I'm just going to add these two together. I'll explain while we're doing all this in a minute. So the top one, I'm going to have a value of minus 0.1 and the bottom value is going to be 0.01. We're going to add them two together and then we're going to create an if statement. So just right click, type in if and then press enter. So the value of these two added together is going to be our A value. Now for our B value, we want a gradient. So you can just create this in Photoshop, get a gradient offline, or what have you. So you can use any type of gradient. Add a radial gradient like a circular one, or you can add a linear gradient. So for these, for what I did, I just added a linear gradient, and we're going to get the red channel and put it into B. So now I'm going to create an integer again, just hold down 1 left click twice. We're going to have 0 on the bottom 2, and on the top one we're going to have a value of 1. So if A is greater than our B value, it's going to do 1, return 1 and do that action. And if it's equal to B or smaller, it's going to be 0. So what these two values are is the top one, we're going to make the power of our hologram. So I'm going to call this hollow power. And the bottom one is going to be the scale of the line when it sweeps across. So I'm just going to call this scale. Scale. So now we've got that, I want to create another if statement. This is going to be so our line is smaller than our texture, because if it's not smaller than our texture, it's just going to cover the texture, isn't it? So we're going to do another if, just use the exact same values as before. I'm just going to create new ones instead of dragging it over, just to make our graph less messy. Right, the B is going to be the gradient again, and our A is going to be the hologram power, which is what we're going to control the left and right sweep with. So now we've got them two, we're going to stick them in a multiply, so just hold M and left click. Put the top one into A and the bottom one into B. For the bottom one we want a -1 node, a 1 minus node, sorry. All that's going to do is invert the values. So now we've multiplied them together, we want to multiply again, so hold down M, left click again. And here we're going to want the colour of the line, the sweeping line of our hologram. So I'm going to just hold 3 and left click. And we get a 3 value vector, which means we can control the colour. I'm just going to plug that into B. Okay, so I'll show you what result this gets for now, and then we'll go from there. So first off though, to be able to control these parameters, you want to right click them and go convert. So make sure they're converted. So we also want to convert our vector 3 colour. So right click, convert a parameter. And I'm just going to call this colour. Hit apply and save. Okay, so now if we right click our material in the content browser and create material instance, if we open that up, we have our parameters here. Just going to apply this to our cube. So I'm going to change the color to red. And you notice the color of the cube hasn't changed, and that's because the line isn't visible yet, because we have it on -1. So if we just slowly bring that up, there's our line right there, our sweep and scan line. And as you can see, if we enable scale and bring that up, it changes the scale of our line. Just like that. But now we want a texture pattern to follow that, just like I did with the screen, the hologram table. So what we do for that is, we just get the texture sample, or you can just drag your texture into the material editor. I'm just going to go for the same texture again, my blueprint texture. Just this texture here. And what we're going to do with that is we're going to plug that into a multiply, and we're just going to multiply that by our if statement here. That's because this bottom one, this if statement, is the right side of that line. And before it's just filling in black, but here we're going to fill it in with this texture. And once we've multiplied that, we're just going to add, so hold down A, left click. And we're going to add the top values with the bottom values. And we're just going to plug that into our emissive, and I'm just going to plug it in the base color as well for now, just so we can see it easier. Hit save, and there you go. As you can see, we have our screen on that side. So if I open the instance up, I change the scale value back to normal, and I adjust the hologram position, you can see it sweeps across. And I don't know if I explained before, but the reason why we'll have the hologram position on -0.1 is because if it's on 0, it'll bleed across. So just put a minus value there, and that'll stop it from seeping across. Just like that. And what I did for the leg, because we didn't have this texture here, I just made the material an opacity. So just click on the material and go to blending mode and translucent, and I just created a 1 vector, put it in opacity, and I just put it on 0.3, and you can convert that parameter as well, so you can control it. Hit save and apply. So So now you can see when we move the position, you can barely see it, but then you can see the hologram. And to get it more visible and less transparent when the hologram comes across, you want to change the hologram intensity. So to do that, I just added a multiply here, multiply, connected the add to the top of the multiply, and then hold down one left click again to create a 1 vector. And I'm just going to convert this to a parameter, and I'm going to call this overall. Oh, it's undone it, sorry about that. Just going to call this overall hollow brightness. Just set default value of 1 for now. Hit save. So now if we do this, do the overall brightness to something really high, and we change the position, and see it's less translucent. So that's what I did for the leg. But of course, if you want to take the time, you can do all of this, but instead of just doing the emissive color, you can connect it to the opacity as well, so it sweeps along with the opacity. But I'm just going to leave that for now, and I'm going to jump in and show you how to make this something usable rather than just controlling the instance. So what I did for my scene was I go to the cinematics and I added a level sequence. I'll just call this hollow sweep. Hit save, and here it is. I'm just going to move it up so I can see it in the scene. Doesn't really matter though. And my sequence opened over here. And we're going to control the material from this sequence. However, using sequence editor, we can't control material instance parameters. So the way around that I have found is if we right click, we go to materials and textures, and we create a material parameter collection. This is just a collection of parameters. So I'm just going to call this, let's just call it param collection. It'd be called whatever you want. And we're just going to create a scalar value. I'm just going to call this hollow sweep. Add the default value to what our hologram sweep was, which was minus 0.1. Hit save. So now we've got that collection. Make sure you save it. Want to go back to our material. Now if you right click and type in collection, go to collection parameters. And when you click collection parameters, we'll get a drop down here, parameter name. And you just want to select our hollow sweep from there. So basically the value of hollow sweep is this box here. So that was our hologram power, so we're just going to replace hologram power with that, because we can control this using our level sequence, but we can't control this using our level sequence. So I'm just going to hit save. So now if we go to our hollow sweep level sequence and we add a track material parameter collection and select our parameter collection, which is what we named it here. And I'm going to add a parameter and choose our hollow sweep. So our hollow sweep starts off at the default value of minus 0.1. Let's wait 45 frames. I'm going to add a frame there. and then between 45 and 90 we'll change it to 1. So as you can see, as we scrub across the timeline, it'll sweep across there, and we hit save. If I select our level sequence and hit autoplay, that'll play when the game loads. So if we play the game now, you can see it sweeps across. And also if we want to keep the state how it is, see how it reset after it did it, we just want to open our level sequence again. And we just want to right click, go to properties, and when finished, choose keep state. And then that'll stop it reverting back to normal. As you can see, our line keeps here though, which we might not want. So I'm just going to open our level sequence again and make it higher than 1. So let's just say 1.2. Hit save. And there you go. It sweeps across nicely. So yeah, that's the principle behind that. So if you want it sweeping in a different direction, we can open our material, and where this hologram is, just change the type of hologram you've got. So I'm going to go for my other gradient, which is a vertical gradient. And if I save that and play it this time, you see it sweeps vertically. And also, if you want to reuse your gradients but you don't want to go back into your Photoshop, or you don't want to find another gradient, just before you plug the values in, do a 1 minus like we did over there, and that will just flip the gradient. So the gradient will be black on the other side and white on that side. So it just inverts the gradient. So now if we play it, you see it comes the opposite way. So yeah, just get creative with this and you can do all sorts. So as you can see up here, I've got static texture, and up here I've used a video texture, just a hologram texture. So for that it's exactly the same principle. Did the same as before, just this time my texture sample is a media player. And here I've just put an emission value here and multiply. Instead of doing overall brightness, I can change the brightness of just the video part. And that way that can be more visible than the white section or the sweeping line. So yeah, I hope you found this helpful. I know it was a long tutorial and it might have been a bit complicated, a bit too fast and a bit boring, but if you follow the tutorial and you get stuck, just leave a comment and I'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. But yeah, give it a try and I hope it helps. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Hello guys, I quickly want to mention that you should check out this guy Azem's tutorial on holographic shader in Unreal Engine, because he's used the same technique as me pretty much, although I've changed a few bits of myself, and I showed you how to use material collections to use the level sequence. However, I strongly suggest to check out his tutorial because he shows you how to do advanced things like radar sweeps, all in inside Unreal Engine, no video textures or anything, all controlled by parameters, which is pretty cool. So the link to his tutorial will be down in the description, so yeah, check out his tutorial guys, and I hope you found this helpful. So thanks. If you did, give it a like and subscribe to 3D Ross for more tutorials. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.